Hi, how are you?
Okay, so this week we are going to talk about our South Node. So we're continuing the series about astrology.
Yeah. I don't actually know shit about the South Node. I just know that on your birth chart, it is exactly the opposite of where your North Node is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there was a thing that when I was searching it up that says the South Node directly correlates with your North Node, where the points where the moon spears the atmosphere or the...
Oh, is it technically also called the lunar node?
Yeah, they're both are part of the lunar nodes.
Okay.
So they complete the lunar node.
Gotcha.
And that's at the time that you were born. So time, day, and year.
Which is why birth times are important.
Yes, because you can't actually get your whole chart unless you know for the most part, if you know your time, and you have to know where you were born specifically, because depending on where you were at when you were born, that can change the directory of where stuff was at.
Yeah, like on my tropical chart, I was born August 5th.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know nothing about that.
We don't claim that.
Okay. So anyway, if you want to know about our North Node, we do have an episode about that, so go listen, please.
Woohoo!
Please.
Shameless plug.
But when I was searching up the South Node, one thing that I found interesting is that whenever you search up the South Node, you can't really find it singular. It always correlates with the North Node, whereas opposed to when I was searching up the North Node, I could find it specifically just by itself. Maybe like in a Google search, it mentioned the South Node with it, but for the most part, you can get just details specifically on the North Node. South Node is always correlating with the North one, and it always mentions North Node, and that's because the South Node is supposed to be what you bring from like your past lives into your new life, and what you're supposed to be trying to get away from. So I found that was interesting in that. And even when you get some of your North Node, or not North Node, when you get your chart with some places or some websites, when you do your birth chart, it won't even include the South Node, which I found was really, really interesting. Like, you may have to specifically search it up to find out what your South Node is, which can be kind of counterproductive a little bit, because I feel like sometimes to work on stuff, you have to know what you need to work on, and in this case, without having that, then I didn't know what it was I was supposed to work on. And then specifically for me, it made the North Node make more sense to me.
That's fair.
So when we talked about our North Node, we talked about, or my North Node specifically, about being more dependent. And I said then, I'll say it now, I didn't like that. But when I started reading about my South Node, it made a lot more sense about it. So
I just explain what is your North Node and what is your South Node.
My North Node is Libra. Again, if you want to know more information, listen to our North Node episode, and my South Node is Aries. So I'm just gonna read the stuff that I wrote down when I was searching this up. So again, going over what the South Node is, it means in astrology that the people you've been before, maybe I read this wrong. In astrology, describes the people you've been before you were around in this life. It also indicates the qualities you should leave behind as you seek personal fulfillment in this life.
Yeah, so you summarized it.
I just wanted to read it as I wrote it.
No. I was saying you summarized it well. That was fine. Yeah,
okay.
Sorry. Yep.
Why, thank you. So this is who you were before, and so you have to leave that behind to become who you want to become someone else, someone that's very different. The South Node is also described as your innate gifts and past life. So the things that you're just naturally good at. You don't know why you're good at it, you're just good at it. And while you may use that to start your early path when you're like, oh, I'm good at drawing, I should probably just keep on with that. And yes, that may feel like give you like a little bit of satisfaction, but it doesn't fulfill you, and you don't feel like you're being elevated. And that's because you have this sense of been there, done that. And that's because you're already subconsciously familiar with it because you brought it with you from the previous time. So the point is, you have to get away from what's familiar to get to what's fulfilling. It's kind of hard.
No, that makes perfect sense. I'm over here, look, real quick before you go on. I have been going to see a therapist for the last like month and a half or so, and one of the things that, I don't think she brought this up specifically, but one of the things she got me thinking about was my relationship with art. Because I went to art school. We talked about this also. I went to art school for 2 years and then I dropped out, and I haven't really made anything since then. And I think I know why now. I'll just use that as an excuse. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Lord.
Alright, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Like, for me, I'm trying to identify what stuff it is that I was just good at. One of the things was math, and although I was good at it, I never wanted to keep up with it. And maybe that was something that I brought from a past life.
So the reason I picked that art example specifically is because of what my South Node is, and I'm not going to get into that because you're going first. So what are the supposed traits of your South Node that you have to get away from?
So, jumping ahead a little bit.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Part of it is, the challenges is being individualistic, unpredictable, and procrastinating. I procrastinate a lot. That's really bad. And then also, basically being controlling. I hate admitting it.
Why'd you say it like that?
I hate admitting it because once I was reading more about it, I was like, that is kind of true. And that's why I said it made the North Node make more sense, because it was talking about being overly independent and relying solely on myself. So, I'll get into that later. I just want to.
Yeah, I was gonna say go for it. That I just needed a little insight.
No, you're fine. So I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I know that I was just innately good at, or so. For example, one of the things was dancing and I guess modeling to a certain extent. People would just tell me I would just be good at that, and I was never satisfied with doing something like that, particularly dancing. I love to do it, but it doesn't necessarily bring me satisfaction if that was something I was doing for the rest of my life.
That's fair.
Modeling, I say because I kept trying to avoid it.
I was gonna say, why did you veer more towards the artistic side of stuff for your example, you know?
Because I'm not sure about the academic side. That's probably my problem, but I'm not completely sure. Sometimes I question, I'm an editor, and sometimes I question if that's something that really genuinely brings me joy. Reading definitely does. Editing, I think because I struggled with it, with like getting people to accept that that's what I wanted to do, and then now just doing it on my own without having, I guess, quote unquote, that support that I initially wanted, specifically from my mom. Then I'm questioning it a lot more, and so that's why I say I'm unsure.
Yeah, okay.
So
sorry to keep interrupting. Yeah,
that's the point.
I kind of. I do like listening. Go ahead.
Why? Thank you. No. So the purpose of the South Node is to be used as a springboard to push you into your North Node destiny. Which in my North Node is to be more, if I remember correctly, it was to be more, I'm trying to think of the right word, servant to others.
No, that's mine.
No, that was mine.
I think it was more dependent on others.
It was dependent and servant too, because part of what the issue with Aries South Node is that not only am I too independent, I'm also quote unquote selfish and think mostly about myself. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Okay, I can see that, but not in the way that most people would consider selfish things.
Please elaborate.
Yeah, so you're more like, okay, I'm gonna use a small example first. When you're worried about shit, it's always, did I do this right? Did I do blah, 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 blah? You're not worried about, for real. Like, well, we I don't know if we recorded this or if we just talked about it, but even when you tend to get insecure about stuff, it's more like, do I look bad? Not do people think I look bad? You know what I'm saying? So in that way, I would say it's more selfish.
Okay,
does that make sense? Yeah. And like the most extreme example of that, I feel like, would be,
be honest.
I'm trying to think of an example though. That's the fun part. You're not really that selfish. Like outwardly, I would definitely say I'm more selfish than you are, at least on a day-to-day basis.
I'm glad that that's one thing from this that doesn't really necessarily apply, because that means I already let that go.
To some extent, I do still think that it's coming up for a reason. So, and not to be like a abnegation, not to be completely selfless. That's not the goal either.
Yeah.
But
I think I was sitting thinking about it when I was reading it and thinking about, I say a lot of I statements.
Mm-hmm.
I need to fix this. I need to do that. And in that sense, it is selfish. In my mind, I'm doing it for the betterment of other people, but it's still an I statement, which in turn makes it selfish. So there's that. So that's something I need to work on, I guess. I'm just being funny about it, but I do need to work on it a little bit. But
I feel like it'll come naturally.
And I don't want to try to force it, because I don't want to get to a point where I'm being overly pleasant to others.
Anxious and shit, yeah.
Because I definitely did fall into that when I was younger. I don't know if I told the story on here, but I had a situation where I was told that I was conceited. And I took it very, very personal, which is another trait of the South Node. And I took it extremely personally and internalized everything, when actually in the actual situation, I wasn't actually being conceited. I was thinking more so of the other person. You know which one I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, but I don't even think that point is worth stating, because you're already like that. It's more that person was projecting an image onto you and you just accepted it. You know? Yeah.
Wait, no, I don't get it.
So you spent the whole time worried about whether or not you were conceited, but you weren't in the first place based on your actions. So the issue is more that they said that to you than you thinking about that about yourself.
And I ran with it. Okay. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was the point of me saying that, was that I don't want to get to a point where I'm thinking like that again, because it took a long time to get out of that thinking, because in me doing that, I stopped taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And the point is, although I'm not supposed to be quote unquote selfish, I also need to still care for myself and learn the balance between that. So
I was gonna say, there's healthy ways to be selfish. That's all I'm all about.
There we go. So again, push me into my North Node destiny. And the South Node is quote unquote your horoscope hometown, which I got from I got from MBG Mindfulness, this website, which we'll link below. And that one said, it said that your horoscope is your North Node is your horoscope hometown. Perhaps not the place you want to settle permanently, but somewhere cozy to visit when you need to feel a sense of place or belonging. So there's nothing wrong with briefly visiting some of these ideologies of yourself and things that happened in the past, and reflecting on them and stuff like that. That's the point. But don't dwell in them. And fear is associated with North Node issues.
Wow. Sorry.
And no, that's good. Yeah. Comment.
Okay, I'm gonna be really selfish real quick. I don't know how long this is going to take, but in 2017-ish, I was starting, or maybe 2016. Oh, it was like 2015, 2016. My granny had passed or whatever. And I remember thinking something about me has to change so that I can stop arguing with my mom. So I really started thinking about, like, or I started asking people, like, what is something you wish that I would work on? Or, like, what would make me a better friend? Or, like, asking myself those questions and shit like that. And then I was alone in my dorm room, so I had nothing but time to think about all that. And then I remember making a conscious choice to, like, stop lying altogether. I remember, like, I call it my promiscuous phase, but I was sleeping with a lot of people that were already in relationships, and it was getting out of hand, so I stopped doing that. And then the result of that decision was, okay, I do want a relationship, and that's how I ended up with my ex. But, what was I gonna say? Oh, anyway, long story short, that was 2015, 2016, so that was, like, I was mentally trying to put myself in a better position to be a more genuine person. But then when I started massage school, they kind of inadvertently got in my head that I need to start practicing being the type of parent that I want to be now. Because if I'm trying to be a certain way when I'm raising my kids and it's not authentic to who I am at that point, then there's gonna come a point where they do some shit and I'm gonna react the wrong way. Oh. You know what I mean? Like, let's say I'm gonna use a more personal example. So my mom raised us to be very vocal about our opinions. I was always praised for being articulate, and I just used to read a lot and like pick up on shit quickly, you know what I mean? So she would be very impressed with that quality in me, but then when there were times where I just could not get it, she thought I was, like, not trying, you know what I'm saying? Because in her mind, she already had okay, that's not a good example. Let me think something else. Okay, so the way that she reacted to me saying that I wasn't, like, the way she reacted to thinking that I wasn't trying was not the version of her that raised me to voice that opinion in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But then at that point, it had been 15 years of her being a parent. I'm still her first kid. She doesn't really know what she's doing. So the air quotes real her came out, or like the person that she was before she had kids. And at that point, I was too young to recognize that that's what happened. But all of that, sorry, I had to be selfish. I'm sorry. All of that was to say that my South Node to North Node journey kind of mimics a lot of that, like, desire and for growth. You know what I mean? Even shit like, I'm not going to get into it, but not yet at least. But yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Like, for me, I was thinking about fear, because that stood out to me too. Mm-hmm. I even wrote it on this online because I was like, that makes so much sense. Like, even with my self node, describing it as being more it says I have a natural fight to flight
fight or flight.
Yeah, well, they specifically worded fight to flight, but essentially same thing. And being in control of a situation, and well, let me just finish reading this and then I'll get to that point. Okay, so the fear really stood out to me, and that's because I started reading more about what my actual South Node is, being in Aries. And so it says, you've sharpened your reflexes for survival. And you know can't read my own handwriting. You know the rush of adrenaline.
That's hard to read.
No, my handwriting is hard to read sometimes.
Well, it's the blue.
Because it's like I mumble the words.
She writes in really pretty cursive. It looks like an adult wrote it.
It's not cursive. It's print.
Basically cursive.
Anyway.
My print looks like the shit that you make for kids so they can trace letters. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Stop apologizing.
That was funny though. Okay. All right.
No, it's funny, so that's fine, but you don't have to apologize for it.
You're right.
Okay.
Yep, you're right.
Okay, so it says, and you know the rush of adrenaline As you begin a new project, speak your truth or rise in the middle of the night to soothe a crying baby. So these are things that I've conditioned myself to. This is what it says, which reminded me of a story and what my grandfather used to tell me that I used to do all the time. And I would consciously do this. I will wake up in the middle of the night cold, and anybody knows me, I always stay cold. I will wear a turtleneck in the summertime type of thing. And because I was cold, I was like, well, everybody else have to be cold, and I don't want them to be cold while in their sleep. So I will go around the house with sheets and blankets because I didn't want them to be too hot either, because I was aware that I would stay colder than everybody else. So just so they would be a little bit warm, I would go around the house and put sheets over everybody. And my grandfather noticed, and he told me that was something that his sister used to do. So he just thought it was really interesting. And for me to have innately just done that, nobody told me about it. I didn't start doing it after he told me that. He brought it up because I was doing it. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
And then I would also sleepwalk, and there was one time I fought him for his blanket. And then there was another time where I would wake up or sleepwalk to the kitchen, go get him some grits out the refrigerator and put it down in front of him, and then go back and lay down. Literally just did that. He never said anything, didn't ask me for nothing. I will sleep, went and got him food and put it in front of him and laid back down. And he was just like, why'd you go get me grits? I wasn't even hungry and you still sleep. So it was that was interesting that my body just took over and did that. So I just kind of been more nurturing, I guess, in a sense.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I'm not going to read you today.
Well, no, that's the point.
It's not. Kind of.
Yeah, so you can read me after I finish.
Okay.
So I was been very nurturing, and that was probably something that I brought from a past life to now, and that's not necessarily something that I feel I should let go of. That's maybe not to that extent, because I definitely want to be a nurturing parent when I have kids. But I don't need to be overly so, where I'm overbearing and trying to be controlling, because that is what I've been leaning more towards to. I hate admitting it, but that's the truth. Because so it also says that in this life, as well as previous one, you've made yourself rise to the occasion when you need to act. I didn't even write that right. Act on crisis. As you've come to know the path of a warrior, the survivor, and the passionate pilgrim. So the reason that particularly stood out to me was because I actually did that when I went to college. Not the act of going to college specifically, but before I even started my first fall semester, I immediately went and found a job because I was aware that there was money issues as far as paying bills at my house, and my mom had broken her ankle at the time, and we also had my mom had my youngest brother, and he was still an infant, or he was like 9 months around the time, or he was about to turn a year. And so I was like, okay, I need to help. Nobody asked me to do it. I just was like, all right, I need to do it, and was immediately starting sending all of my money home, to the point where my mom had gotten dependent on that, because I just automatically did it. And then she also expected that from my twin, who wasn't like that. And then where he fell off, because she would talk to me about it, where he fell off, he would, promise to help out here and there, and he didn't. I made sure I picked up on it, even so much so that I was not buying my school books. I wasn't making sure that I was eating right, because I was like, I need to take care of home. And that was me, and that's why I say that's where the nurturing turned into controlling. And that's a thin line and a dangerous boundary to be teetering on. And having to recognize that in myself, even just now, one is good because I have time to work on it, but it's also like, damn, I gotta work on that. And I didn't realize it had gotten that bad until I read that, and then that came to mind, and I was like, okay, well, that is a problem, because realistically I shouldn't have did that. And then I did that throughout the whole 4 years that I was in college, except for my sophomore year. But I felt guilty because I didn't have a job. And so then that prompted me to make sure I got one when I first started my junior year, before classes even started. Make sure I found a job. And there's been other cases where I did stuff like that, where it was just like, oh, this is not taken care of, let me figure out a way to fix it. And not because anybody prompted me to, not because anybody asked me to. In my mind, I just need to do that because survival mode, this is what I'm supposed to do.
We actually got into that a little bit when she first moved in, because I remember I threw some shit towards the trash can. And I was like, oh, I'll get it later. No, this is petty, but it's the principle of the thing.
I know.
I'm saying that for the audience because they're gonna think it's petty anyway. But so I threw it on the floor and I was like, oh, I'll get it later. And she got up, crossed the room, and picked it up and threw it away. And I was like, now why did you do that? I'm an adult. I don't need you to take care of me, little sibling me. You know what I mean?
We specifically had that.
Yeah, and then we had it a few different times just because more examples of it came up, I feel like. But that just goes to show how instinctive a lot of Kyra's nurturing is, you know what I'm saying? She's to the point where she can't really turn it, or she couldn't really turn it off, because when she first got here, she couldn't even I was going to say she wasn't even comfortable having that kind of honest, not saying it out loud about herself. Let me say it like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I didn't want to admit it. And I would just be like, but that's what people, that's what siblings do. And that's not the case. I'm not going to even say always. You can still be a big sibling and not be taking care of them, because I even went to the point where I was basically mothering my younger siblings. Now, I don't regret having, that experience, because I feel like that would, taking that with me, that will innately make me a better parent once I do have kids. But I also need to understand boundaries for myself and for them. And so that was one of the hardest things that I actually was forced to let go, which, thank God, that was a good thing. But that I was forced to understand to let it go by having to move in with Kaylyn and her parents. I had to completely learn just myself, because I didn't know myself, and learn to take care of myself first. And so that was a thing. And going back to the fear factor about it, it was like, why was I doing all this? Because I was afraid that I was letting my mom or my grandfather down, or my dad down, by not taking care of them the way that I was supposed to. I'm not doing this right. I'm not being a good big sister, because I did get comments like that from my mom specifically. Oh, you're doing that. You're not being a good sister. Or specifically because my twin used to like to lie to get attention. And so he would lie by omission. He would also just blatantly lie, but specifically about situations where it would be, I'll just give an example. When we were in high school, our freshman year, had a group of friends to the table. Now, he took pride in being an asshole and annoying, but that isolated him. And to the point where his friends were literally my friends, because they were tolerating him because of me. And so it made it hard for him to have friends, because he thought it was funny or cool to be annoying, because he thought he wanted to be the class clown. There's a way to be a class clown and not be annoying.
Yeah, actually be funny about it.
And he didn't do that. Because he was also being extremely selfish about it too. Selfish to being really selfish.
Yeah.
So he
inconsiderate selfish.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that elaborated. So there was one time we were at lunch, and I was sitting with my friends, and there, because of fire regulations, safety rules and stuff like that, there's only a certain amount of people that can sit at a table. And one of the chairs was being saved for one of the other people that was coming over. It was another girl, and she was getting her lunch, and the rest of us were sitting down. My twin came over and took her chair, and so then I didn't, but everybody else kind of got on him and was like, "Hey, that's already somebody else's chair. You can't sit right there." When she came over to sit down, she was like, "You're sitting in my chair," and he was like, "I don't see your name on it." And I was just like, I didn't know what to do because I was kind of torn between this is my twin, but he also acting like this. So then we asked some of our guy friends who sometimes used to sit with us, but you know, they had a whole guy group at the time. And they were saying, hey, yeah, come over and sit with us. Because they were trying to be considerate of trying to alleviate the situation. And so he didn't want to do that. And he decided to take the more dramatic route because first he wanted to try and just insert himself and get another chair and be over there, but because of fire regulations, he couldn't.
Okay.
Then he decided he was going to be more dramatic about it, and he just literally went and sat at an empty table by himself in the middle of the fucking lunchroom. And I felt so bad because I was like, I feel like I should go over there and sit with him so he's not sitting by himself. But also, they offered to let him sit at the table with the guys, and I kind of want to sit with my friends. We even tried to lie and say, we having girl talk about periods. You don't want to be around that. And he wouldn't even take the bait for that. So, I did get up and go sit with him, and he told me, no, it's okay, go sit with your friends. And I was like, are you sure? This is my 13/14-year-old mind. You sure? Are you sure?
Are you sure?
He was
right.
like, yeah. I went and go sat back with my friends.
Of course you did.
Why is it that when I got in the car, because he got to the car before I did, my mom is like, you left your brother sitting by himself and made him feel isolated, like he ain't got no friends. You chose your friends over him, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not what happened. I broke out in tears because I'm like, that's not what happened. And she wouldn't listen to what I had to say. And she was like, you've done this stuff before. Elementary, middle school. And it wasn't even that serious because it wasn't that I did that before. He also didn't tell the whole story about then too. And she's like, you did this shit before, blah, blah, blah. You just a terrible sister. And that stuck with me the whole time because I took pride in being a good person and being a good sister because I love my siblings. And so that instilled, or not necessarily quite instilled, but reinforced a fear of mine of not being a good person and being a good sister, that I kind of took it and ran with it and then overdid it.
Yeah.
And so, long story for a short answer, sometimes I can take things and go overboard with it, and it turns into a controlling behavior. Getting back to other stuff about me that I had to realize.
Yeah. This is good.
It says that you've also had to go at it alone many times, and the courage has been instilled into you as you felt the fear and the... I'm sorry. I'm reading it too disjointed. I'm sorry. You've had to go at it alone many times, and the courage has been instilled into you as you felt the fear and did it anyway. I didn't quite understand that part to a certain extent, but I get what it means.
Read it one more time, or at least the beginning part.
You had to go at it alone many times, and the courage has been instilled in you as you've quote unquote felt the fear and did it anyway.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I had an example that came to mind, and I was like, maybe I need to check that, but no. Wait, you come in here.
Okay. And that was definitely flight or fight type of courage thing.
Fought through leaving.
Yeah. I mean, that was absolutely necessary, and it was something that I was afraid to do, and I can definitely say that. I didn't want to admit it before, especially while I was there, that I was afraid to leave. I was afraid of being on my own because I was worried that I wouldn't be able to survive on my own and take care of myself. But realistically, I was taking care of my whole family. So why was I afraid that I wouldn't be able to do it on my own?
Of yourself, yeah.
And so, and then also just cutting it off as far as still taking care of my family while I was here, because I was still doing that too. And I had to get over even that anxiety and fear. But when I came here, like, I was in tears. I was in full ball, ugly cry, tears. But I had to persevere through it. Like, it was absolutely necessary. And although I was having anxiety while I was driving away, I was like, I have no other choice. And so sometimes that can work in the benefit, because it did push me forward into my North Node being more, I guess, a little bit at least more dependent on like my friends. Because, I'll say this too. I say it pushed me into being more dependent on my friends because I told Kaylyn that I was going to sleep in my car. And I wasn't going to allow her to let me stay. And she was like, well, just stay for a couple nights and it'll be okay. And then I'm here, 9 months later?
Yes. Because what the fuck do I look like? You telling me to my face, you're in front of me crying that you're going to sleep in your car. The fuck do I look like? That's a terrible idea. Can you imagine how depressed you would have been? Can you imagine? No. I'm glad. That's so far away because what the fuck do I look like?
But at the time, like, me having that thought was necessary because I knew that in that moment, like, it was absolutely, I had to be quote, I guess, ready to leave. Mm-hmm. Like, there was no going back. And although I did have some anxieties, because I talked to my mom after, like, literally the day after, and there was, apologies and stuff like that where it would have been easy to just go back. And I had to convince myself that, no, that's not okay. Mm-hmm. And going back is not an option. I really had to struggle with myself about that specifically. But I didn't even think about that one. I was trying to think of an example of something, because I'm sure I've done it in other cases too.
Probably.
But there was nothing that was really coming to mind because it was just do it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's you've helped me realize that kind of shit where, like, when you're doing it, it doesn't feel like what it's described as.
Yeah.
Like, I realized through talking about this, and you might have heard me typing in the background, I've been on a spiritual journey by accident for a really long time. And being able to say, like, oh, I'm experiencing my lunar return or some bullshit like that makes it make more sense to other people who know what terms you're using. Mm-hmm. But my mom just describes it as growing up. So,
yep, I'm becoming an adult.
Yeah, I'm maturing.
So the last little bit about my South Node is that Aries gives us the fuel to act and arises out of many things, out of fear, anger, necessity, or simply for the experience of knowing. Simply for the experience of knowing I did it myself. That is completely different, because I did that too. And I did it specifically with Italian, which is so funny, because when I was in college, I had a lot of friends who spoke Spanish. I was really good at Spanish when I was in high school. I even have a friend now who I was talking to who speaks Spanish, who could help me, and he was my friend then too. And I decided, fuck it, I'm not doing Spanish. I'm going to do Italian because I want to say that I did it by myself. And that was literally my thought. My aunt had told me that she took French in college and high school and stuff, so I was like, Italian is my only option right now because I want to be able to say that I did it on my own, because I had so many people that were doubting me, one, for being at that school and being a black girl from as close to the ghetto as I was gonna get, and a disadvantaged background. Dad is dead, almost in jail when he was alive. Single mom with a lot of younger siblings and no money, and for everyone else they just saw, this school is gonna chew you up and spit you out. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. And not only am I gonna do it, I'm gonna find something that I'm doing completely by myself and can't nobody tell me different. Kind of fucked me in the beginning, but I persevered through the end. And although I'm glad for taking Italian and doing something different, it was not the wisest choice for me to do it for the reason that I did it. And I had to get over myself on that one.
That's fair.
So,
yeah.
And just reiterating, my strengths are in South Node. The strengths are being ambitious. I like to think that I am. Talented, of course, no. Talented, adventurous, and loyal. I wouldn't say I'm quite as adventurous because I'm pretty boring, but I am loyal.
I feel like you're choosing to be boring.
I don't think so.
Okay. We'll save that option.
Oh, Lord.
I'll shelve that one for now.
And again, my challenges are individualistic, so I try to just be overly independent and not depend on anybody for too much. Like, you realistically can't get through life like that. You got to be able to depend on somebody. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I was afraid that if I was dependent, that I was, one, being perceived as weak, quote unquote, which was something that another website said, and that I was being codependent and not relying on my own strength. And so then I again took it to an extreme and decided to do everything on my own. I'm not telling anybody what fears and anxieties I'm having. I'm not telling them about my depression. A lot of people didn't know how depressed I really was. Through high school, throughout college, I was extremely depressed and really, really low. People didn't know that I was crying myself to sleep at night. That I had gotten sick from not taking care of myself. And I was just like pretending that, yep, everything's okay. I'm smiling on the outside, but in the inside, I was broken. I was torn down, and I wasn't letting anybody else in. I built up these big ass walls and didn't let anybody else in, because I didn't want to seem like I was being too reliant on someone else. And it's also because I was seeing bad examples of someone being, I guess, codependent and not taking responsibility for themselves and their own actions, that I was like, I don't want to be like that, so I'm going to go the complete opposite route and be completely independent. But then that has its issues too. And so right now I'm learning that balance.
Yeah, as all things must be. I think it's either should be or must be. The panel's called.
Don't get me on that one.
What do you mean? Oh,
yeah, I don't know that one. I'm behind.
It's okay.
Okay, well, are we getting close to the time that we have to start a new one?
Yep. Yeah, I just didn't know. None of that counts, so I didn't know if you wanted to wrap up your part. Yay.
So I'm wrapping up. The challenge is individualistic. I lean too hard into that, so I'm learning to balance and learn that it's okay to be a little dependent on other people, and to want that support, and that it's okay to be vulnerable. And it's okay to want to be vulnerable with someone. And then unpredictability and procrastinating. Again, I procrastinate a lot, and I was doing a lot of self-sabotaging with that, specifically with editing. And I actually persevered through that this past week, so that was great. Shameless plug.
Yeah, right. What's your for the chat? LOL. No, for the audience. What's your LLC?
Well, it's Frankly Kai Editing LLC. Eventually, you'll be publishing. Working on it. All right.
Yeah, if y'all write, hit her up. Maybe. Well, so here's what we're doing now. $25 consultation fee.
Yeah.
You need to send at least 3 pages. And if you know that you write like a 3-year-old, I will hoe you.
She won't have to.
No, we'll make a whole episode. I don't care. No, I'm dead ass too. That would be really funny. It'll be the best. It'll be the funniest episode we had so far.
There will be one coming soon. I really think we should make that an episode.
Yeah, man, this nigga's stupid. That'd be the title of the episode.
No, we already got one.
Anyway, alright. We're gonna take a brief pause. And for those of you who don't give a fuck, skip about 45 seconds ahead. We have an ad coming. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay. Alright, we're back.
And we're back. Okay.
So my turn. Yay. My South Node is in Pisces. And if you know me on a personal level and you know that I like talking shit about things, one of my least favorite zodiac signs is Pisces, because I just had a few people with roles in my life that I placed more importance on than they did, and I assume that they thought that was never gonna have me fucked up at some point. So here we are, years later. I don't talk to neither of them, and I feel like I'm better for it. Anyway, point being, I'm not a huge fan of the sign Pisces. I actually don't have any water on my chart at all, other than this. It's okay. There's like a few Cancer placements and shit like that, but like realistically, my chart is, I think, predominantly air, fire, and earth. I didn't know much about the South Node before we started doing this. I just knew that it was better to learn about the North first, because the perception that I was given of the South Node was that was more like the shadow side of like things that, or if anybody has heard about shadow work, or like people always talk about you got to go through your shadow side to basically reach enlightenment or whatever, and I think there's some truth in it, but saying it like that makes it corny. Anyway, point being, that's what I took the South Node to be, so I didn't really get into it because I was like, that's corny.
So that's interesting. We have completely different
introductions to it.
Or not just introductions, but ideals about which one should have went first.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. But go ahead, finish.
I thought you said you were saying that you wanted to do them at the same time, because I think even if we had learned about them at the same time, I would have had to insist on North first. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. So Pisces is ruled by Neptune and quote unquote governs the right brain. People always tell you Pisces have issues staying grounded or staying in reality. They're the ones when people are making like the horoscope jokes where they're like always on drugs and shit like that, because they just want to be spaced out, or like they're airheads or whatever. But one of my favorite ways to personify the zodiac system is that they're all different quote unquote ages. So the Aries will be the babies and the Pisces will be like the elders, you know what I'm saying, the step before you
rebirth.
Not quite yes, actually I will say that. I was gonna say it's like the 9th insight of the Celestine prophecy, so keep an eye out for that. Yay.
Foreshadow.
Ooh. Yeah, but it's kind of like that, where that is the last air quotes lesson that you have to learn in life, or through your incarnation cycle. I'll say it like that. Now some people can straight up be born straight to whatever, but I know I've been here a while. Got a little off topic. I'm a Leo. Anyway, that's super unrelated. I've been here a while. Anyway,
oh, I didn't even think about that. Sorry, I have to. It's so interesting that our South nodes are literally right next to each other, and I just went over the baby and you are going over the old.
Yeah.
Didn't think about that. Okay, continue.
Yeah, I think it does make sense, because Pisces are also connected with being more spiritual, so people will say, oh, they're more, the top 3 zodiac signs most likely to be psychic. Pisces is always on the list, even though I think that's some bullshit. And that's me being water biased, or unbiased. What, I don't know. I'm rambling.
It would be biased.
It would be biased. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so they're technically known as being more spiritual, more connected to the other realms, and blah 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 blah. So for that to have been my South Node, that kind of made sense, because in the last year or so, I've been being honest about having substance abuse issues, and not in like a
redacted.
I feel like I can put that out there. Who's gonna call me on it? I dare you. 55 minutes in, including the ad. Fuck you. Yeah, if you listened this long just to tell me, oh, you need to go to rehab, shut the fuck up. That's not what this is about. message me on Discord, or if you know where I'm at, pull the fuck up. I'm just saying. Yeah, anyway, I tend to have just a random desire to be a little out of it, and I think that's funny. Or like if I black out very quickly if I'm like drinking liquor or something like that, and not like pass out blackout, like stop making memories blackout, where I'll still be up and moving and talking and shit and just don't remember any of it. All of that was to say I shouldn't be like that. And for like the last 2 or 3 years after I left my relationship, I just haven't felt like smoking like that, because I smoked every day for about 4 years. And I can recognize now that I've taken like 5 tolerance breaks, just because I can recognize why I didn't like that. Because sometimes I'll wake up, if I smoke like maybe like 2-3 in the morning, because I wake up dumbass early. If I wake up too early, I'll go smoke and then go back to sleep, and I'll wake up and I just feel like things aren't real, and not in a way like there are no consequences. Because that's my favorite, okay, hard sidetrack. This is my favorite thing about people complaining about life being a simulation or whatever. Who gives a fuck? Shit still hurts. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, pain, and I've heard this in like media or whatever, pain is the biggest deterrent for me to do dumb shit. Yeah. I don't want to get hurt. Even if nothing, like in fucking, what is that called? It was an episode of Black Mirror that was like, you can pick your own path type shit. One of the characters, they're on fucking acid, and he's like, I can prove to you none of this is real, none of this matters, I can control blah 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 blah. Which one of us is jumping off this window? If you jump off, of course it just restarts. But if he jumps off, you see him in a different loop, and he's like, it worked, didn't it? You know? So that's insane. Anyway, point being, I'm not finna do that. I'm not a boy. I don't need to prove the futility of a simulation in that way, if that even is the case. I don't know why I got on that. I just had to tell you I think that's dumb. My brother's here.
Yep, he's here.
Obviously. Anyway, okay. I'm going to read. People with Virgo and Pisces lunar north nodes are constantly balancing fact versus fantasy, intuition versus logic. Oh, intuition versus logic, period. You can be a masterful manifestation magnet, but also a micromanaging manager seeking answers and explanations. So I think that encapsulates the last few months that I've been having. Part of the reason why I wanted to go get ADHD testing is because I was having, I can't even call it doubts. I just all of a sudden started to really not believe in spiritual shit. And not that I believe in like anything else, but it was kind of like, and I told Kyra and I talked about this a little bit, because the reason I stopped in the first place, or like stopped meditating so often, or like doing that kind of shit, was because I started feeling more spiritually vulnerable, and I wasn't quite sure how to protect myself. And every time I would ask people, they're like, well, just make sure you're really grounded, make sure you're centered and grounded. And I'm like, okay, well, I think I'm doing that, but it's not helping. So clearly I need more answers than that. And at that point, that's why I like to have my micromanaging sessions with myself, where I'm like, if I can get to the barest detail of what energy feels like, then I'll know when I'm grounded. That's not the answer. The answer is to ask someone else, realistically speaking. Point being, though, I was like, I can either just be grounded, or I can figure out how to be grounded. You know, does that make sense to contrast the manifestation versus micromanaging? Anyway, point being, I started to try to make things more logical, and I don't really know why I started doing that. And I'm not typically that kind of person. Like, when people are like, oh, you're really logical, it's common sense, but I'm not like a logical mathematical. You know what I'm getting at? I'm not that kind of logical. I'm more like, okay, well, if a bird disappeared behind a tree, there's either a hunter or it hit something. You know, and it possibly the tree. Just because you didn't see it doesn't mean there's not an explanation for it. When, you know, if shit's not real, it could have just phased into another world of existence. And it's so stupid. I'll be the first person to be like, well, I can't find this thing. It got up and walked away. You know what I mean? Or like, it's in a different reality. It just needed to go do something else. I'll be the first person to say that, and then still, in other instances, be like, there has to be a logical explanation for this.
Yeah.
I also wanted to comment. I was reading this out. I don't have any focused things to say. I hope you didn't come to this chunk of the episode expecting me to be coordinated. Anyway, I also wanted to say that the huge difference between the Virgo energy and the Pisces energy kind of reminds me of the huge difference between my Leo sun and my Virgo moon, because I already feel torn in that way, where like I described it as part of me wants to just jump up on the table and dance because it's fun, and the other part's like, no, what if the table breaks? Well, then the third part's like, well, what if you... Or no, the third part is me sitting there daydreaming about either of those scenarios for way too fucking long. There we go. Because it's not even, I don't know, man. I air quotes, have a really active imagination, but I remember one time I had one of those dreams where you're falling, but then you kind of like jump waking up, or I could have sworn I heard Santa on the roof. And I don't know too many of my friends that leaned that hard, or like I still kind of deeply believe magic is real, like actual ass magic. Because what is Reiki? I have a whole 20-minute monologue recorded on my phone about that, so I might drop it if anybody other than Kyra asks. But you have to get this far in the episode. Yeah, because you're sitting right here. If anybody got this far into the episode and they want to hear more about me rambling on about magic for 20 minutes, just say something. And then we'll know that you listened. Yay! Anyway, I said that a lot. Back on track, though. Let's go. Oh, okay. No, but like, okay. I die hard believe magic is real and stuff like that. Like, animals have feelings and can talk and communicate and blah, blah, blah. But then I have a really hard time believing that people can do spells or that there's a God. I think that's stupid. Just very air quotes logical things. And then the quote in here that really tickled me about all of this before Kyra started kind of explaining some shit inadvertently again was that Virgo South Node, the Virgo, I think they meant to say North Node because I just copy and pasted. Virgo North Node says seeing is believing. The Pisces South Node argues believing is seeing.
Literally the exact opposite.
Yeah, so, but I feel exactly like that at any given point. It really just depends. Oh man, one of my favorite examples was my ex asked me what would you do 2 different times, and I didn't remember. He asked me what would you do if you found your kid with a gun, and I was like, the first time I don't know what tip I was on, but I was like, well, I'll shoot him in the foot. Well, you want to have a gun? Fuck around, find out. But then the second time, I was in a completely different headspace, and I was like, well, it depends. Like, are people bullying you? Blah, 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 blah. Like, are you in a gang? Why did you feel like you needed a gun? And he's like, are you dead ass? I was like, yeah. He's like, you said something completely different last time. I was like, did I? I still don't remember saying either. Well, I remember the second part because, but I don't remember saying the first part at all. All that was to encapsulate how diverse my thought process is, because I feel like people like Tom is the purest version of one-track minded I've ever met in my life, to the point where it enables him to multitask to accomplish the one task. That's so fascinating to watch, but I can't do that kind of shit at all. And that could just be the ADD talking, but on a astrological level, I was born to have ADHD because all of my placements are in conflict.
That is interesting. Yeah. In a selfish reason or a selfish way that I have to get out of. It has me thinking about like how mine are, because so my son is Virgo. Mm-hmm. So I didn't realize how organized or logical my brain was until I started talking about it, and then I like the fact that I write everything down and read from a script every time that we've done this. Mm-hmm. It just expels that. But then just seeing yours just having such big contrasts, because even having a sun in Leo and a moon in Virgo, which are literally right next to each other but are complete opposites.
We're opposites, yeah.
One, it's weird that we're friends, but 2, I mean, not in a bad way, I love you. But the fact that it's like in your first two signs, not signs, first two things in your charts is literally opposing completely. Like, one wants to be chaotic, the other one's like, no, we can't do that.
We need to clean up the chaos, and that's frustrating enough. But then, so I don't remember too much about what I said my North Node was, but I always I'll just read this from Astro Style. Virgo and Pisces are the signs of health and healing. If you were born with the Virgo North Node, your destiny involves a path of service, healing, and generosity. And I don't particularly resonate with that, and it's actually really funny. I found myself, I don't remember if this was this week or last week, but I was asking, like, don't I deserve to have a normal 20s where, like, niggas drinking all the time, or they're going around fucking everybody and just doing young people shit? But I'm over here, like I said earlier, trying to worry about what kind of parent I'm gonna become. Not even dating anybody, have absolutely no interest in getting pregnant within the next 5 years. And I'm spending my time, well, maybe 5 years, not the next 4. But spending my time sitting here thinking about that kind of shit. I don't like the idea of being on a path of service. Like, I recently realized that, like, massage is boring. But it's more than that. I do get a sense of satisfaction from actually helping someone when they get up and I'm like, oh wow, like my neck feels so much better and blah blah blah. But not enough to want to do this forever.
Maybe that's part of the South Node where you've already done this before, been there, done that.
No, that was the Virgo shit that I was reading that said that, right? Yeah. Exactly. And that's the path that I'm supposed to be on. And I can understand that because with Pisces being more dreamy, spiritual and all that, having that be things that I was attracted to when I was younger makes a lot of sense. Like, I don't know if there's any correlation between Pisces and art, but that would make sense why every time I was in an art class, I just could not get engaged. No matter how interesting the concept was, no matter how much time I had to do it, what space I could create in, I just did not have it in me. And then I took a total of 3 drawing classes, 2 at U of M, maybe 3. Okay, so I took like drawing 1, 1, 2, then 2, 1. And then I think I didn't have to take 2 because I wasn't in that program. But then after I had dropped out, I had to take a semester at Macomb so my parents would actually believe that I wasn't doing this school shit. And I was in the drawing class and they made me take 1 because for whatever reason my credits didn't transfer. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, I've done this. I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, it would be so different if I genuinely wanted to improve my craft or whatever, and I really love to draw. I don't even fucking like drawing. It would be different if I was taking 8 million photography classes. You know what I'm saying? But I got to take 1.5 the whole time I was at school in the first place, and they only had 5. And long story short, that was the first thing that popped into mind for me because that's just so integral to how I saw myself, but it was not at all authentic to who I think I am.
Like, who you are now.
Yeah, because I've grown up a lot, and I definitely did at some point enjoy being the artist, but I have to be honest, and I think it was more the attention of being the artist than actually, like, making art, you know? And that's fine. Now that I'm an adult, I can say that. And it's been harder with my family than anybody else to like, oh, I'm not an artist, please don't call me that. You know what I'm saying? Because my cousin had a birthday party during the pandemic and somebody in the house wanted to make a sign because we were supposed to do a drive-through for their birthday or whatever. And we got maybe an hour or 45 minutes before we have to go. And she's like, so are you going to make it? Who the fuck said I was gonna make it? You didn't even ask me. You're not even asking really if I will. You're asking, so when are you gonna? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Because I have a right as an adult, as a free will human being to say, no, I don't want to do that. But because that's how my value was being determined, like, and I hate to say it like that because they definitely love me as a person and as their child, but on the other hand, they place a heavy emphasis on your academic potential. So for me to not want to play into that, it was apparent where my value then lied. Whatever the word is for that. Lied, yes. Alright. And they also simultaneously, despite labeling me the artist, tried to send me to math camp. That is the most disrespectful shit I've ever heard in my life. I fucking hate math.
Over to the point where she's like, okay, close the door. I gotta do this math. Tell anybody that I get it.
Don't tell people I'm in here doing math, because I will do rather complicated equations and shit for everyday math because I need to figure something out. Like, I needed to figure out pounds to kilometers for, we were learning about macronutrients or some shit like that. So I needed to figure out how many grams of protein I needed for my height and weight or whatever. Don't tell anybody that. Even those of you who somehow got an hour into this and are still listening. Don't tell anybody that. Don't share my business like that just because I shared it with the internet. That's not how this works. Right. That's not how this works. Point being, though, while I have my moments where I can be logical, I already said earlier, it's not that type of logical where, like, I'm like a computer or whatever. You know, it's more like, no, this just makes sense. You know, and I guess everybody's not like that, but then I can attribute that to my high IQ.
She has a high IQ.
Yeah,
we will get into that in another episode.
God.
Oh my God.
You know, definitely we're going to have... I wanted to make the Learning to Cope thing a series. Kyra got to go first because I think hers is a little more...
We're not going to even go there.
...valuable as far as life skills go.
Uh-huh.
Because they can apply to multiple people. But mine, my first one at least... Because we have joint things to talk about. My first one is going to be purely about ADHD. And that doesn't apply to everyone, so it's not going to be quite as helpful.
With that being said,
I was going to say, I want to see how long it'll just be silent. Okay, back on track. And there was something I was saying and I completely forgot, so if I'm editing and I hear it, I'll make a note of it and I'll bring it up at some other episode because I knew exactly what it was and then completely lost it. Oh, okay. This is the first thing that, like, caught my eye. I don't remember which website I got this from, but it says, it may look like people with their North or South Node in Pisces are constantly having themselves confront their own limits because it's the direction for them in life. And I wouldn't have agreed with that about my childhood, but definitely I would describe my adulthood as being after I turned 20. You know, maybe 21, but every year after that I've learned a lot, like exponentially more about myself than I did when I was younger. So, the example for that is like, how much emotion can I hold in before it gets like detrimental and I didn't even mean to find that out, or like, how can I close out this cycle with myself, or do I need help? You know what I'm saying? Like, but like, kind of, Kyra and I have similar issues, so I think it's funny that her South Node journey just mirrors shit that I've also been through. But I had a really, really hard time acknowledging that I needed help. And for me, my like caving in moment was some point in either October or November of last year. I just realized everything felt really hazy, and not in like a I'm on drugs kind of way, because I wasn't even smoking at that point. I hadn't smoked since May, and it was November, and I had stopped smoking cigarettes even at that point. So like, I'm just out here, my balls out, and everything just felt like not, my instinct there is to say inauthentic, but that's not quite what it was. It just felt like I wasn't in the right space, if that makes sense. I don't know how to describe that well, but then I started to, because it was really funny. My mom and I went through a whole thing when I started school about really paying attention to whether or not I had ADHD symptoms. We still weren't really talking about getting me tested at that point, but it was just kind of like, oh yeah, this makes sense, this piece makes sense, these go together, blah blah blah. And then the whole time I was in massage school, we acted on it, and I think that helped me pass because I like knew my own study tips and tricks and shit like that. But then somehow between then, because this was maybe September 2018, between then and September 2020, I completely forgot somehow. Like, not in the way that you normally forget stuff where you remember it later, where you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. It was like, how did I forget that? Mm-hmm. That's such an important part of how I identify myself.
Walking outside in the fog, trying to get to the next... like even get down the street, but you can't see anything.
And then you realize it's because you left your fucking glasses at home, and you're like, but I've worn glasses my whole life. How did I fucking forget my glasses? That's what that felt like. Thank you for that. That helped. But then, so that's why I was like, okay, you know what? I actually need to see somebody. Even if it's just the confirmation might help me validate the feeling so that I can move past it, you know what I'm saying? And it turns out I 100% do have ADHD, but that's still only half of the fight that I'm currently going through with myself, because no one's making me do anything. I chose to find a therapist. I chose to go. I chose to do all the steps necessary for that because I don't have a structured support system. Anyway, I like complaining. Sorry. Anyway, forgive me for that. For the universe, yeah, I don't like complaining about that.
This specifically, the thing that came to mind was your choice to drop out of school. Because even then, you had to confront your own limit as far as...
Oh, that's a good one, yeah. Because, like, literally, I was like, I'm either going to die or I'm going to stop going to U of M. Which one of those seems more dramatic?
And realistically, when we were talking about it, because we would have deep conversations when she was dropping me back off at my apartment, because I was a broke college student and didn't want to walk at night.
That was a long motherfucking... No way you were gonna walk. No way you were sleeping in the fucking car. No way you was finna walk.
Wait, okay. So, we would have discussions because I was talking about stuff that was going on in my life, and she would talk about hers. And again, a lot of our stuff mirror each other. Even with her talking about her South Node being in Pisces, a lot of it resonates with a lot of stuff that I'm doing. It maybe because I have Virgo as my sun sign, so a lot of the stuff overlaps a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
But we have a lot of stuff similar. Anyway, we literally were sitting in the car, and she literally said that to me. I was like, that kind of scared the shit out of me, because I was like, I don't want you to die.
Yeah, but she's the only one that took me seriously, by the way.
Why wouldn't I? I just like it was so jarring to me, because I never at that point had a friend who, one, I was glad that she did it, but basically came to me and was talking about, I am contemplating suicide right now. I'm so unhappy. And I was like, look, your parents ain't gonna like me because I'm gonna say this, but if you need to drop out, do it for you. And that's what you need to do. She had been getting signs from her grandmother from that, and I specifically remember that because we talked about it. And I was like, you're getting confirmation from your grandma that it's okay. You got to do it. And I was like, I'd rather you do that and they be mad at you than you be dead. And that's literally was the conversation that we had.
I don't know why niggas... I understand in hindsight that the way that I phrase things is not taken very seriously.
I mean, but if you're saying something like that at any point, even if you just say it like, either I'm gonna die, even if somebody say it as like, could have possibly taken that as a joke, I will still take at least some seriousness to it and be like, okay, why are you saying stuff like that? Ha ha ha.
Like, are you alright?
Let's talk about this.
I wasn't even joking. I was like, yeah, I'm either finna die or I'm finna leave. And I kept saying, I said that to several people. And Carter's the only one that took me seriously. And like, other people knew that I was very unhappy, but I think they thought I was joking. Anyway, point being, that was a limit that I wasn't aware that I even... That made me feel inadequate, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I can't even finish a full 4 years of college. That's so easy for, like, even the dumbest motherfuckers I went to high school with. Got their 4-year degree.
They still dumb, ain't they?
Dumb is fucking, like, what?
That has nothing to do
dumb
with
is a sack of shit. Not even rocks. I feel like I like rocks. You know?
Okay.
I really don't like poop.
What I'll say is, like, you can't judge yourself based on, like, somebody else getting a degree or not, because it's based on what you want. You can listen.
It's easy for you to say that because you in general are more supportive. But, and I'm going to wield this against you. Kyra got to see some personal shit in our family. And that was the only time a situation like that has happened in the 9.5 months that she's been here. But that was a pretty consistent thing for me for 4 years when I was in high school and my first few years of college. Okay. And it got to the point where that was what Kyra saw was on a scale of like 1 to 5, 5 being the most intense. That was probably about a 2, you know, and it was pretty intense.
I kind of lived in 5 all my life. Then.
Same, but you know, I'm saying for
outside
me to, I was gonna say, for me to have been going through all of that, plus feeling like I'm on the brink of life, I guess. Yeah, that just wasn't the best. I didn't like that. When you think about what are my limits, you don't think about stuff like that. And I'll just pinpoint that conversation with that.
And that's why you have friends.
That's exactly shit. I don't know what the fuck happened, but that's exactly why you have friends. It felt like it, man. I threw up a little bit. Oh, I might have to throw up. What did I eat? Something I eat's not sitting right with me, but that's okay. I got croutons. Maybe eat that right before.
Yeah. Right before that with the turkey sausage and cabbage.
I didn't eat the turkey sausage.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't like turkey like that. Anyway, that's a nitpick. Regardless, we got a little lengthy. This episode's probably going to be
but there's some parts that's going to get cut out. But.
Yeah, a decent chunk of things. But yeah, so my South Node is in Pisces. That means I need to stop trying to escape reality. That means that I need to accept my healing and service qualities. I accept being generous because that's something I take pride in. That's like one of the few Leo traits that I'll claim. I'll give you any of my, if I like you, I will give you money just because. I'll get stuff that you like.
She snuck $20 in my car.
Oh no, listen, don't say it like that. I was driving her car and I used up a lot of her gas, and I knew that she would try and send the money back. See, I knew she would try and send the money back if I put it in her account, so I just left the 20 in her car and didn't say anything. She found it 2 months later.
My car is not dirty.
No. She just didn't check. Yeah.
It was in like a cubby thing that I don't check because it has sunglasses in it. I'm not using sunglasses in the winter time. I was literally about to pay cash for some like snacks, and I was like, when did I put 20 in here? Kaylyn must have did that. And then when I talked to her about it, she was like, I was waiting for you to say something. I was like, are you serious?
Because then she even remembered the conversation. I had been driving her car maybe like that entire week, and then she got it back and she was talking about I gotta put gas in it, and we were driving it for whatever reason, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I gave you some gas money, and she didn't say anything, and then I knew she would look through her account later.
I did.
Yeah.
Actually, I looked while we were driving, and I was like, she didn't send me shit. And I was like, she probably gonna try to send it later. And I definitely try to keep an eye on, or kept an eye on it. And I was like, oh, she must have forgot.
Well, did she know?
I got
2 steps ahead because I'm God. Yes, 2 in 1 episode. I think I earned it. Haven't done one all month. I can load up. Well, I guess for last month we're actually like pretty solidly into March now. Speaking of which, it's fucking March. Oh boy, we made it? Yeah, right. We're gonna go backwards because we didn't record some of the episodes that we wanted to record last month, and I didn't want to record until after today. I guess today really pushed me a little bit. I want to talk about what grinds my gears.
I am excited to talk about that because we got to, when I said that we had some stuff to talk about as far as people not being able to write.
Bruh. Yeah, I want her to wait until she gets paid. Bruh. There's just some things
you just
especially when you're an intelligent person, you realize that that's not a sentence that should be strung together in that way.
Or that sentences should be strung together and you don't put a period and then keep going as if it's a new sentence.
As if it's a fucking comma.
That's one sentence. Please.
Please. Punctuate better. Yeah, anyway, so hear us be that kind of nerd and that kind of asshole, because I'm gonna be real rude. I don't give a fuck, man. Some people are so stupid. Anyway, point being, that's what's on the horizon when this episode comes out. This should be mid-March by the time this comes out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so keep an eye out for us being angry. Specifically me.
Us being angry. Do you want to say what your strengths and challenges are, or did you already?
Yeah, no, I didn't do that at all. So we're gonna tie all this up with, thanks for letting me ramble for 30 minutes. My strengths are that I'm idealistic, ambitious.
In South Node, the strengths are...
I was gonna go back to that. Hey man, she cut me. She interrupted my... No, I did that to her so much earlier. Let me stop. I did that a lot. My strengths are that I'm idealistic, ambitious, gentle, and caring. I disagree. Challenges...
You are ambitious.
I love that you knew that's what I meant, but I'm also not gentle. Challenges are that I can be disorganized and overly emotional. I think that more applies to when I was younger. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to say that it's not entirely true, but now I tend to have moments where I'm overly emotional, and then the rest of the time I'm just kind of chilling.
Okay, that's fair.
Mm-hmm. I'm a hardcore chiller, though, bro. I'm getting real good at it. I had somebody describe me that way. I was going to say, man, I had somebody describe me as chill. That's never happened. Reaching new heights.
And so that means that she was subconsciously working herself out of her South Node and unprompted. So that's pretty cool.
I don't know, man. See, and then this is kind of unrelated. I feel like Virgos have a reputation for being like pinched asshole niggas. And
I'm not.
No, you're not. But then, like, listen to how people talk about Beyonce and how she playing that Coachella shit. Where like, I had to eat 3 vegan meals a day so I could get down to this weight. I had to perform 18 hours a day or like practice the choreography, and then for 3 hours I held my babies. You know what I'm saying? Where like every single detail.
Do I do stuff like that?
Not to that extent, but I also haven't seen you be anxious. Never mind. Yes, you do.
She changed so fast.
Because I remembered, before some things happened, Kyra was gonna go see her friend.
Oh, wait, okay. No, we're not gonna even go there.
Yeah, not today.
I always thought she was gonna talk about when I was starting to lose weight, because I definitely was like, okay, well, I ate too much today, so I need to count these many calories. I was writing down the amount of stuff I was eating. Because
I feel like that still makes sense, and then I wasn't encouraging you to not do that. This other example that I had. I'm not gonna say what it was, but I am gonna say that I had told her 2 different times, maybe you should do a different thing, and she did it anyway.
I do overplan sometimes.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm not overly emotional all the time. You're not hyper organized all the time.
No.
Pinched asshole.
I'm not pinched asshole, but I can be organized and like my mind in a way that I have to. I'll plan stuff a lot. Like, I do have to plan.
I know you do, man. That's so funny.
I may not do like, okay, at 5 o'clock. No, I do that.
I know. See, when you're trying to say something where you're like, damn, I might actually be like that.
I'm trying to think of an example that makes sense. Anyway, too long.
Because if it's that hard to find an example, maybe you are like that.
No,
listen, you're not gonna do that every single day, but on days when you do have shit to do, that you plan it out like that.
I do. Mm-hmm. I actually, funny story. Mm-hmm. When I was, I do it in my planner too. I'm like, okay, I need to put myself back on a schedule, because that's the only way I get stuff done. And I will, when I was planning, I plan out my days.
Yeah.
And
I'm supposed
I was like, okay, 7:30, I need to wake up. Wait, at least if I'm not going to get up exactly at 7:30, by 7:45, I need to be up and start working out. And then at 8 o'clock, I need to do this. 8:30, I need to do this. And if I was ahead of schedule, that's great. But I can't fall behind schedule. Yeah, I got issues.
No, you have idiosyncrasies and an attention to detail. Anyway, with that being said, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at KaylynWasHere_.
And I have a Instagram and Twitter. Kyra_is_here.
Both of our names are spelled out in the title of the episode, so if you get it wrong, that's on you. I haven't said that in a while.
And my name is actually pronounced Kyra.
Kyra, I can't say it right, but we're getting there.
I didn't quite say it right this time either, but nobody's
We're getting there. And then follow us on our joint pages. On Twitter, it's K_and_Kai. And then on Instagram, it's K.and.Kai. And
those will be down below too.
Yes. And then we're also going to plug all of the websites that we use to gather our information. And I would love if you got this far and you just want to tell us about, oh, my south node is in blank, my north node is blank, or I think Pisces are pieces of shit too. I'd love to hear any of that.
She had to put that in there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with that being said, we are here. Please do listen. And
thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye! Nice.